This was the first view that I had of Romney Marsh, the view from the Ham Street Bypass site offices. Before we head down to Brenzett, now would be a good time to find out why the A2070 Stockbridge to Brenzett was built. At the end of the 1980s, Kent was in a unique position. Construction was to start on the fulfilment of a century-old dream, a fixed link between England and France, the Channel Tunnel. Kent County Council successfully lobbied the government for funding to construct new roads for the forecasted extra traffic. Ashford was chosen for the UK's first international station. The town's road links were allocated some of the Channel Tunnel funding. Construction began on Ashford's southern orbital, linking the M20 to the site of the international station. A further road was required to link the A259 to the southern orbital. The first phase was the A2070 Ham Street Bypass. The second phase was the A2070 Stockbridge to Brenzett. Whilst road construction commenced at Brenzett, additional improvements were made to the A259 at Brookland, the Brookland diversion. Okay, let's go to Brenzett and see this road to nowhere. Before you start designing and constructing a road, you have to carry out a site investigation. As you can see, Romney Marsh is a very flat area. This unique landscape brings with it additional problems. To fully understand these problems, we need to look back in time. Romney Marsh today is a peninsula jutting out into the English Channel, but it wasn't always like this. At one point the sea came in as far as Ham Street. The new road would be built on an ancient low-lying seabed, now crisscrossed with drainage ditches. The area was also once part of an ancient forest, stretching across the channel into mainland Europe. This history has formed the fertile marshy landscape of Romney Marsh, the location of our road. To avoid flooding in this low-lying area, the road will have to be built entirely on imported fill. There will also be other complications. Many of the drainage ditches crossing the new road will have to be culverted. Some of the existing ditches can be filled and rerouted. A minor road will need to be closed. Several areas of bad ground were found. In order to build the road at these locations, additional works are needed. In areas with a low CBR, or California bearing ratio, a geotextile membrane is laid at formation level. This will provide extra strength and stability. A layer of peat below the subgrade presents a problem. With the loadings of the road construction, the layer will compress and cause settlement. Temporarily loading the fill with a 1 metre surcharge will cause the peat to compress quicker. By taking levels along the top of the fill and monitoring the peat layer with specialist equipment, the rate of settlement can be measured. When the settlement stops or becomes negligible, the surcharge is removed and construction can recommence. Right, we're nearly there. We'll pull over near the old site offices. The site offices were just up this track. Whilst I walk up here, let's take a look at the contract details and site administration. Interestingly, Kent County Council were effectively client and contractor for this scheme, the contract being won by Kent County Council's Direct Works organisation. Here is the KCC site staff family tree. The resident engineer was responsible for the overall running of the site. The assistant resident engineer also carried out the role of quantity surveyor for the client. The engineer carried out additional design work. The site engineer carried out surveying, setting out and minor design. The clerk of works checked the workmanship, the plant and labour on the site. Here is the contractor's site staff family tree. The site agent was responsible for programming and overall site control. Underneath him was the foreman, who was in charge of labour control and materials ordering. The quantity surveyor carried out monthly measures and valuations. The gangers, labourers and subcontractors actually carried out the construction work. The contractor was paid for the works carried out each month on account, along with an advance for the cost of materials on site. At the end of the construction, a final measure was carried out and the final valuation based on these quantities. Here we are. It's changed a bit. It's a lot tidier now rather than what it used to be. Look, you can still see the old white lines. There's a bit of the old road. Let's take a look. So, how would you go about constructing a road like this? Well, it all started with fields. First, the limit of site is, where practical, fenced. This avoids trespass and damage to private property. All unwanted vegetation and obstructions are cleared from the site. The topsoil, in this case being the top 250mm to 600mm, is removed and stored for reuse. Before construction could continue, we needed to culvert the ditches. The area to be culverted was dammed off and a Wellpoint dewatering system installed. Once the groundwater level was low enough, the ditch was excavated. A sand bedding was laid to receive the culvert units. Specially constructed precast concrete culvert units were delivered to site. The units were lifted into place by crane. In situ poured reinforced concrete foundations were laid to receive the precast wing walls. The wing wall units were lifted into place. The culvert units were backfilled with compacted sand. The ditches were then reprofiled. As the culvert construction was substantially finished, the wellpoints were decommissioned and capped off. The ditches flowed once more. The parapets were then built and the railings installed. Construction of the highway could now continue over the culverts. Here you can see the tops of the disposable well points. They've been exposed where the ditch bank has collapsed. The sand fill was placed, surcharged where necessary. Some of the sand came from the culvert excavations. This resulted in a surplus on site. Rather than remove the material, the road levels were revised, slightly raising the fill height to take the additional sand. The drainage was laid. This consisted of precast concrete manhole rings and twin-wall plastic pipe. Concrete pipework was only used under the carriageway. The drainage discharged into the local ditch system. The fill was excavated to prepare for the road construction. Type 1 subbase was imported and laid. Once this task was complete, the earthworks were over. The earthworks subcontractor left site. Gullies were installed and connected to the buried connection pipes. The top of the gully pots were covered for excavation after the base course had been laid. The precast concrete curbs were laid. Using the curb levels as a datum, the road surfacing commenced with the road base. This was followed by the cambered and super elevated base course. And finally, the wearing course. The batter slopes and verges were topsoiled. The required signs were erected and road markings applied. Landscaping works were carried out. And the road opened. This is the minor road that was closed off as part of the scheme. So, how has the new road changed the surroundings? What have been the benefits? What detrimental effects has it had? To answer these questions, we need to take a trip into the village of Brenzett. But before we do, let's take a drive down the new road. This is the point where the Ham Street bypass ended and Stockbridge to Brenzett began. In this old photograph, you can see the new road running parallel to the existing. We will be driving along this new road in a moment. The old road still runs parallel to the left, serving as an access to some houses. New ditches were dug on each side of the road here. The field land drains flow into them. We are about to drive over the largest of the installed culverts. It runs right across this junction. The old road is now to our right. Looking at it now, with all this mature vegetation, it is very hard to imagine the road as just a pile of sand stretching across the marsh. It also makes it very difficult to spot the culverts. The safety barrier gives it away. We've just passed over a culvert. Safety barrier is required along any section of road crossing a culverted ditch. The electricity poles up ahead had to be realigned and raised to allow the new road to pass underneath the lines. We are approaching the roundabout at Brenzett, the end of our road. Let's park up and take a look around. This is a map showing the village of Brenzett. There is the existing A259, and there is the old route through Brenzett. Our new road is here. I think it's fair to say that the garage does okay from the new road, as does the little chef behind it. These two businesses are on the existing A259, so they have always benefited from passing trade and will continue to do so. I was already aware that the Fleur-de-Lis public house had been in financial difficulties. I thought I would ask the people in the post office how the road affected their trade. The answer was obvious. Just around the corner is the depot of Smith's coaches. I spoke to a member of the Air Museum who actually drove the Bowser on site during construction. It really is a small world after all. He said that apart from the noise, the new road seems to have put the museum on the map. They will shortly be expanding. Let's take a closer look at the location of these businesses. The filling station and the little chef were already on the main route. The new road led directly to them, increasing their profile, which is a positive. Both the post office and the public house served the local community as well as passing trade. Whilst the pub has remained open, the new road has made trading very difficult. For the post office, the new road made trading impossible. In both these instances, the road negatively affected trade. The coach firm, of course, does not rely on passing trade. The new road has improved the route to Ashford and in turn to London, Folkestone and Dover. The reduction in journey time could only help the business, another positive. The fact that the Air Museum is expanding shows that business is thriving. The new road has improved transport links with the site, which must be a positive. Whilst two of the businesses have been severely affected by the lack of passing trade, the new route has improved or not affected business for the rest. What about the local residents? How has the new road affected them? Brenzett village certainly looks very sleepy now. It is hard to imagine all this going up here or along here. Let's take a look on plan to see the effect of the road on the residents. Residents living on the old route have benefited from traffic using the new road. Their houses no longer shake as trucks go by. Landscaping has shielded their houses from a lot of the noise. The former main road is now nothing more than a country lane. This is without a doubt a positive outcome. The centre of Brenzett, where once braking lorries squealed as they negotiated the mini roundabout, is silent. You can actually hear the birds singing. Another positive. The people living on the existing A259 roundabout have not been positively affected by the road, but nor has it had any detrimental effect. The same amount of vehicles pass by now as would have done if the new road hadn't been built. For this reason, I shall ignore them. These residents, although close to the existing road, now live with the new road on their doorstep. Whilst the landscaping does form a visual and sound barrier, there is still a measurable negative impact. We can see from our investigation that, for a majority of the residents of Brenzett, the road has had a positive effect on their homes. What we've seen so far paints a positive image for this new road. There are some negative issues which may not be so apparent from a visit such as ours. Several local people commented on the noise from motorbikes. It seems that the A2070 from Ashford to Brenzett has a fan base with motorcycle riders wishing to time trial their bikes. Every Sunday the road turns into an unofficial racetrack. The A2070 even has its own website alluding to this fact. As with any modern, well-designed road, there will always be drivers who try to push their speed too far, with fatal results. The A2070 is gaining a reputation as a fast and dangerous road. So, what can we conclude from this visit? The road is certainly fast, but it was designed to take future capacity. No longer are large vehicles driving through a tiny Kentish village. The new road, whilst ever present, is well obscured by landscaping. Some businesses have suffered, others have thrived, but you can't win them all. I'm pretty satisfied that the A2070 Stockbridge to Brenzett is about as good as it could be. It may be just a road to nowhere, but it will continue to serve road users for years to come, and I'm very pleased to have been part of that.
Any filming of structures and stuff like, especially like the sensitive security type places, you can basically be arrested for camera scenes. So if you're going to do it, just let the staff know.
Well, that's it, that's been done.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't get stopped down at...
Well, I mean, you can't actually... I didn't drive right into the Channel Tunnel because I had no idea whether if I drove in there, I'd end up on into France, you know, so I pulled over and away and just went round here.
Looks like you do get the guys up the back of the police station there, like binoculars and stuff.
Yeah.
That's all. Alright, see you for your time anyway.
Alright.